welcome back. Kristen and IGO here, and it's been a minute. Now, before we jump into this conversation that I had with Jesper Bergman, who is the solo developer behind this game called Trouble in Cookie Town, I just wanted to share some brief news. Now, IGO is a one-man band. I do have, an editor that helps me to cut out what we call the ums and uhs to sort of make the conversation move along at a little bit of a faster clip. I would love for Indie Game Origin to be at the point that I can be releasing interviews weekly or at least twice a month, where right now I just don't have the bandwidth to really be doing that. So my hope is in the future that I'll figure out some way that I can actually be dedicating more time to the channel. But in the meanwhile, if you do want to support IGO and our goal of, highlighting indie games, please feel free to like and subscribe. This is a totally free way to support us as creators and make sure that these creative people who are making these games can have their games seen and highlighted on the channel. I do what I do for free. Indie Game Origin doesn't charge money. Like we are not an advertisement platform in that regard. So game players, game creators never pay to be featured on this channel, and I did that very intentionally. But it does mean that things are very slow, and to speed that along, if I do get enough subscribers on YouTube itself will start to be able to fund some of the efforts behind Indie Game Origin. So again, if you like us, feel free to like and subscribe. If not, that's totally fine too. No offense at all. Without further ado, we're going to jump into this chat with the creator of Cookie Town. Now, Cookie Town has been released on Steam. It exists. You can go get it right now. It is incredibly chaotic and really silly and super fun. So if you decide that you want to go ahead and play this game, I definitely recommend, going into this with the mental head state of it's supposed to be goofy, right? It's supposed to be pretty ridiculous. And we get to talk about some of the motivations behind why this game turned into the thing that it did. So I hope that you enjoy it. If you're an indie game developer or you know of any games that you'd like us to cover, please feel free to reach out to us. We do have a contact email on our website. So thank you so much. I hope that you enjoy this video. And without further ado, let's do it. Game fans, welcome back. I'm Kristen with Indie Game Origin, and today we are sitting down with Jesper, who is a solo developer behind Trouble in Cookie Town, which is an extremely slapstick, super fun, imaginative game. Thank you so much for joining me. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you built with Trouble?
Sure. Thanks for having me. My name is Jesper. I am a game dev located in Malmö, Sweden. I work full-time as a professional game dev, but then on my free time I really like to dabble in solo projects. And yeah, I have released a couple of games on Steam, 3 so far by myself, and then also games with studios. But yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
That's great. Yeah, it's so awesome. We were talking just before we started recording that it's nice to sort of live and breathe the things that you love to do. You get to wake up and go to sleep thinking about, something that you really love and have passion in. And, I think the energy it takes to create a game is, something you've got to just like have passion for, because I'm sure it can be a grind, like trying to figure out bugs and
oh yeah, for sure.
Those things. Has your day job like influenced any of your work as a solo developer?
Yeah, I think so a lot, and it's sometimes very difficult because you can get like your mind gets these different paths. So it's like sometimes I'm thinking about work game stuff, and sometimes it's my personal game stuff, and sometimes they bleed into each other a bit because it can be like I have a really good idea at work, and it's like, oh, I really want to implement this, and then I think like, oh, but this is also a really good idea for my home project. But then it's this like, okay, how should I handle this, and how should I not just make, because otherwise it's easy to just make the same game twice, right? So I need to like navigate to make sure that my own projects are my own and not like as influenced by my work projects. So it's sometimes quite cumbersome, and also sometimes there are periods where it's like really intense at work, and then I'm only thinking about work, and then other times where it's like nothing at work, and then I'm only thinking about my own projects. So it's like ebb and flow almost as well. But it's it's just a good time no matter what I do, I think.
That's great. It sounds like, the changing of the seasons kind of like, I think the human tendency is to sort of do this thing for a while and then go do this thing for a while, like kind of like change gears. And something that I've heard from a lot of devs is that it's also nice to sort of have this place that's all of the fun stuff that you want to do, that there isn't necessarily an outlet to do in other aspects of your life. And that's kind of what Cookie Town feels like for me, is it's sort of this outlet for this like slapstick, really fun, like playing with physics and playing with like the idea of like the gingerbread house and these kinds of things. Like, what was your inspiration for this game? I'm so curious, like, how you decided to sort of settle on this idea of like this whimsical sort of Cookie Monster kind of thing.
It's it's been a crazy project for me from the start, because in the beginning I had no idea what I wanted to do. I wanted to explore just random ideas, various game mechanics that I enjoy, and one of those that I found was like the grapple, right? It's really fun to grapple swing. It's really fun to pick up things with physics and throw them around. So that was like the core starting idea. That's where it all started. But in the beginning, like at one point, the game was a completely different game. It was like you had the grapple and the swinging, but you were like a firefighter and you were supposed to rescue people from buildings. But then that didn't work out because a lot of things. And then I turned it into a horror game where you had to do like solve puzzles while a monster is chasing you, but that didn't work out because of a bunch of reasons. So I sort of trip it around, and then at one point, I have no idea how this happened, but I think a friend of mine mentioned that it's like I think the monster that I made was really similar to like a Cookie Monster. And so that sort of like made me go down the path of, well, that's kind of fun. And then it's like, well, what if a city's made of cookies? And then that led to another. And then, well, they don't like broccoli. So then that added, and et cetera, et cetera. So like it grew from there. But it was I'd say a very organic process, because I had no idea what to do at the start. This project started from me sort of, I guess you can say, just wanting to have some fun playing around with like Unreal Engine on my free time. I wasn't really interested in making a project. I just wanted to play around, and then it grew from there. But it's hard to pinpoint like when things happen, because it's been like a very over time type of thing.
Like really change shapes, it sounds like, several times. I like that a lot though, because I think we like playing games because of play, and so in the process of building the game, it's nice when there is a sense of play, like that there's a sense of sort of exploration, sort of messing with different ideas. And like I think that's what draws a lot of people, at least like me, to gaming, is we like to explore and play with different things. Like, oh, what happens if I do this? Oh, what happens if I do that? And for the developer's perspective to be able to imagine, what does happen when we do this? What does happen when I decide to grapple? What does happen when I interact with these different objects? Like, I think that must feel really good for all of those things to sort of land into place, and one idea sort of leads into another, and it ends up building this really cool environment that now you've got cookie guns that like look like Pop-Tarts. And it just becomes this like really fun thing that it sounds like was a lot of fun to develop. Was it a good time for you to bring these elements together, sort of craft this sort of unusual world?
Yeah, I'd say so, but it wasn't fun in the beginning, because that when I was like looking for what the game was supposed to be, or when I was doing this exploration, it was, obviously I got to roadblocks where it's like, oh no, this isn't going to work, because it could be production reasons that I just don't have the time, or it could be just like I didn't think it was fun, or whatever it was. But so then it was quite troublesome. But I always knew that like I don't have a deadline. I'm not doing this for money. I'm doing this like as a hobby. So it's like I'll just go to the next thing. But then once I landed in the Cookie Town and the monsters and this like bringing it to like just a goofy level, it started being really fun, because then like I would talk with my friends when they'd play the game, and they'd come up with wacky random ideas that were just like stupid, but then I'd implement it and see how it worked, and sometimes it was really fun, other times it just didn't work, but it was like there were a lot of laughs throughout the entire production after we got to this like the Cookie Town part of it. So yeah, really, I'd say overall a very pleasant experience, of course.
That's great. Like it's cool to share that with the community too. Like to bring that joy. I think games have such a unique way of bringing people together and making these sort of really unusual sort of alternate reality, I guess, sort of places for us to explore and have silly fun times. You know, you mentioned some. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna, especially when you're a solo dev, because there's no one else really that has stakes in it. Like when I'm working my full-time job, then it's like everything needs to be checked with directors, and sometimes investors have point of views. But here it's just like, if it sounds fun, I'll try it, and that is like, it's a very freeing experience.
It's like really empowering to just be able to play with different concepts when they come up. Because I don't, in my day job, I don't do, now I'm not in a corporate environment. I've been in corporate environments in the past, and those levels of approval, I understand why they exist, but they can be very destructive to creativity. So I empathize, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, it can be really hard to be like, geez, okay, I'll send it to this person and then this person. And sometimes it's, you know, the feedback is really useful. Sometimes it's really not. And it takes a long time. It takes forever to get anything done. You know, at least it has in my experience, which is, yeah, it can be exhausting. Then by the time you get feedback, it's like life has been sucked from your body. Oh my gosh. You know, you mentioned some roadblocks that you faced, especially early on. Like what's been the most, you know, challenging aspect of creating your game? And, you know, maybe how did you go about maybe approaching those problems?
So I'd say the biggest challenge is this, developing blind in a way, like not knowing where exactly I am heading, because that led to me doing the wrong things and having to do things over and over again, rebuilding and reiterating and stuff like that. And that's, it feels like time wasted, but obviously it's not, because you learn and you iterate over the process. But that has always been like it's always nice when you have the game, like the game design document, it's ready and you're just executing on it. But that's that's more what I do at work, and that's not what I want to do with my own stuff. So that's like a double-edged sword, I guess you can call it. And then other than that, it's like everything that comes to like shipping the game, like actually getting it on Steam, because like the fun part for me is making the game. But then when you need to do all this like Steam like descriptions and image and key art, and you need to make trailers, and you need to like try to market it on social medias, all of that stuff, it's like that takes away some of the fun in game dev for me. But it's like a necessary evil. You just have to do it because it's worth it in the end, obviously. But I'd say that's like the biggest, the most challenging aspects for me, because then I need to leave my like cave of just like doing whatever I want, and suddenly I need to think like strategically, oh, this is how you should do things, and etc., etc., and that's not as fun for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I can totally understand. I think balance is so hard to achieve in every aspect of our lives. At least maybe it is just for me, but it feels like trying to find time to do everything is very hard. And even with all of the tools that we have, it can be so difficult to find, do I spend 5 minutes on this or 50 hours on this? Like how much time do I need to allocate for these activities, right? And I design Bibles exist, I guess, for a reason, but on on a team, I think they make sense, but they
Yeah.
kind of like the levels of approval. At least my experience has been that sometimes they can really be also that inhibiting factor. It's nice to be in this place where it's like, okay, I get to sort of break the mold. I get to make something new, right, for completely from scratch. And I like what you said, the sentiment that you echoed, that was sort of like, it feels like time wasted, but it's sort of practicing for something else that ends up being, down the road, maybe something you'll use in the future. You never know.
Yeah. I mean, everything I learn from making this project is I carry that with me. So like, it doesn't matter how many dead ends I hit that like didn't get it in the end product, because I learned something along the way. And it's like, it's just natural. It's just what happens, right?
It's true. Yeah, that's well said. I like that a lot. And I like what you said, developing blind. I'm like, I feel like that's my life, right? Developing blind. Like, someday when I, am in the end of my life, I'm like, maybe it all pointed in a direction, but I couldn't have known. I couldn't have known that it was headed that way. We talked a little bit about some of the mechanics in the game, and it sounds like there are some rounds of iteration that a lot of these mechanics went through, and it sounds like maybe even with some of the sort of play tests you're doing with friends, like how did the sort of physics and mechanics of the world change over time? Because now they feel really intentional, but knowing that there was sort of this blind development, like what did that process look like to try and kind of refine what some of these interactions with the environment look like?
Yeah, so I mean, the core mechanics for the game is like obviously the grappling, and then you have like secondary with the shooting and the picking up things and stuff like that. But that like it has been iteration after iteration after iteration, because it's like the first iteration of the grapple system was like very simple, like you right click somewhere and then you just pulled there. But then, I mean, I wanted to get this like more Spider-Man feeling that you're like swinging. So that was like, and because it's all physics based, it's like, I don't know physics. I'm a game dev, right? So I just estimate things like, okay, but this feels good. So I was just playing around forever. And then some things were like super difficult, I realized, because when I'm playing, I played the game for so many hours when testing, right? So I become an expert at my own game, and then I give it to my friends and they try it out, and then I realize, oh, they're having extreme difficulty just like getting up on a ledge. Okay, so why is that? And then I need to iterate on that, and then I implement all these edge cases and everything to make sure that, oh, if you're standing still close to wall and grapple, you should be able to get on top. But if you're grappling while falling, then it's a different scenario. Like there's all these like it is like building the railroad like right in front of you, because you always need to fix for like the next thing that can be super difficult or hard. But other than the grappling, then it was like the shooting, like you couldn't shoot from the start. Like the monsters, they just existed in the world, but then and you would just grab them. But then we realized, oh, it's really fun to shoot them and then grab them. So then the shooting came in. We had like the broccoli hunt, trying to collect all the broccolis. In the beginning, it was way more of you just do an objective and then you're done. There was no like collecting broccolis. But then over time, it's like, but that it feels a bit flat. It's like, why when adding these books on top of each other, does that make the town better in a way? Like it became too random, I guess you could say. So then like adding the broccolis, having to collect them, bring them back to your base to create the mega broccoli was like a really nice sort of red thread that you played throughout the game. So you sort of had an understanding of why you did things and why things were happening. There was also at one point where the monsters, they didn't attack at all. Like they would just like run away from you and you had to chase them down. But that was also one of those things where there were so many moments where people that played the game felt like I really wish there was like some consequences sometimes, that it's not just chasing all the time, and sometimes you're actually running away, or maybe you need to be careful of them. So then I implemented that they actually chase you sometimes and start jumping at you and all that stuff, which I mean, all of those things just make the world feel more alive and more connected, and it makes sense in hindsight, but at the time, like I had no idea what I was doing, right? So those were like the I think the biggest thing, other than obviously having to like remake the entire game a couple of times because I had no idea what I was doing.
Sure. Yeah, no, and I think that makes sense because, I remember watching the intro about the broccoli and I was like, oh, that's cute. And then as the game started to happen, I was like, okay, I think this makes sense. I think I'm tracking what's going on here. And it's funny because I think just for me, because I happen to also be a parent, but I think a lot about like making my child eat healthy food. And so as I was playing the game, I was like, I feel like this is good like propaganda for like little kids to like, eating their broccoli. And so it's really cool to hear the story of like, I had these really fun pieces, wanted to put them together, and then how do we make like a story out of that? What does that structure look like? How do we get people engaged with the world? Because I think you're right, like randomness is fun, but I do think that context makes the game more entertaining. And I remember the first monster that ran at me, I wish I'd been recording it because I didn't realize that was gonna happen. It was really alarming. I was like, oh my god, there's a situation, I have to be careful. And it's fun. It's like it's really unexpected. I've played a lot of games and a lot of like very silly tiny games. I've played, of course, the big box like AAA, a lot of those games as well. And I really can't think of another game like exactly that is this genre. It's very much its own world. It's super like fun and bizarre in like the absolute best way.
Yeah, that's,
like
I had it. That's like also one of those things that was like, it's really fun, but it was so hard when doing like the Steam marketing, because it's like, okay, I need to like genreify this thing, and then it's like, is it a puzzle game? No, not really. But is it a shooter? I guess. But yeah, not really though. But like it has physics. But like, where does it land? And that was also very hard in general to like when it came to the marketing, to just like the audience for this game. It's like, it's not as obvious as a lot of other games are. And yeah, that was one of the challenges that I really struggled with as well. Just like I'm making a game that I am not sure who it's for, except obviously I enjoy making it. But that's what helped me have motivation throughout the project, because if I think about like consumers first, I often make things very like, it's not, I will lose motivation very fast. So it's way easier for me to do it for me in that way, and then think of that stuff later on.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much to unpack, right? I love Steam, don't get me wrong. It's where I go and buy 95% of my games. But there are limitations to what is possible to do on there. I mean, you can mark a game like 5 different genres, but then maybe it becomes muddied for the audience. It's just, and we're in kind of, I think, a very cool era in terms of creating such new, different stuff that's never existed before, because the tools allow for that to happen now much more easily. It's like significantly easier. But it's also like, I see the same thing happening in music, where it's so hard to define what things are, because there's roots of other genres, but it's sort of becoming like fractured and grouped and Venn diagrammed into other things. So it can be hard to like really place what something is, and define it. I was talking to a dev from Germany a couple months ago, and they were having a very similar problem, because it's sort of like a physics puzzle game. It's like a little bit of a platformer, but it's not really a platformer, and it's a puzzle game, but it's not a puzzle game, and it's sci-fi, but it's not. Like, it's sort of all of these different things combined. And but I think finding an audience is in the modern era of gaming, a struggle for sure.
Yeah, I think Cookie Town, if I had to make a commercially viable product, then I mean, this is not the project you'd make. Like, no publishers would probably buy this unless it's already from like a well-known studio, etc. So it can only exist as like a hobby project, I think, unless you get super lucky and it blows up. But that's like, I mean, 1 in a million, right? So
That's true. Yeah, I think about like what was the game? Schedule One. I almost forgot the name, and I
Oh
played
yeah,
it so
yeah.
much. Like, I think it was designed to be commercially viable, but it has like, this feeling about it that it wasn't. I really think it was just that guy sitting in his room like playing around one day.
Yeah.
But you know how many games come out in a year compared to the ones that hit it super big. But this game is really fun, and I do look forward to streaming it. It is on my list of things to stream. It's a long story. I got tasked with at my day job with playing Mass Effect, and even though I am a massive sci-fi nerd, somehow I completely missed the boat on those games. So that's what I've been like investing my time in, which is really interesting. Yeah, so I have that as homework to do. Feels kind of cool and weird, but this is going to be really, really fun to stream. Like it's very silly. Even the loading menu when you go to select like load a game, play a new game, even that menu where you get to click on the monsters, instantly I had a smile on my face. And it's very infrequent that I open a game. Like I open games and get excited, but it's very infrequent that I open a game and before I've even started it, like I'm having a good time. It's just it's such a fun experience. And the monsters, you mentioned that they kind of ended up looking like Cookie Monster. I was really curious about like the visual design of the game. Like how did this kind of come into play? How did we end up with cookie buildings and things of this nature?
Yeah, so since I'm alone, obviously, I don't want to spend. I like making games. I'm not a big fan of, I guess, realizing games, like making the art and all that stuff. I'm not as interested in as just like making the game, because I guess that's more of also what I do in my real job. I've used to work as a tech artist and a VFX artist, and especially when we're working in like realistic games, it's like
right.
very much it needs to look extremely good. So I spend all my energy on making it look nice and realistic and all that stuff. So when I'm working on my own projects, I want to make it like simple, easy to make, just like straightforward. So for this game, I wanted to like, I'm using the built-in modeling tools in Unreal Engine, and I wanted the art style to just be possible within that. So I chose this like super low poly simple art style, and then I found a few asset packs of like, I found a city asset pack that was like a normal city, and I thought that was perfect, so I bought that, and then I started like renovating the buildings, I guess, like swapping things out for cookie materials and adding like frosting and making changes so that it would look like my own thing. So I think like if you compare my city to the city I bought, I mean it looks, the silhouette will look kind of similar, but like I don't think anyone would actually know that it's like taking from an asset pack, those buildings, because I've changed so much. And when it came to like the cookie monsters, like that's just me playing around, like because I wanted to have an enemy that was simple, so I took like just a normal human model, and then I like made the edges of it like edgy, and adding blue color, then suddenly it looks like a bit furry and offsetted, and making the head with the eyes and everything. It's like it's most of it is just like simple shapes, right? It's like spheres that are a bit noisy and wobbly. So it was I made it easy for myself because that's what I wanted to do, right? So that's like the core of why I chose this, or why I made it like this, because I'm not a 3D artist, so I don't want to like get to the point where it's like it needs to be able to be like ugly but look good in the game. Like that's sort of my goal, so I can make low effort art but still make it like fit in the world and look good. Because as soon as you choose like a better looking art style, suddenly everything you do takes more time, and it's like a multiplier of okay, so now if I want to make a new building or something different, then it's a week instead of half a day. I obviously didn't want that because I don't enjoy that part. So it was very much like a production minded decision, that part.
That's awesome. Yeah, I honestly didn't know that was an asset pack. I was like, whoa, these are such cool cookie buildings. I was imagining for some reason like the American Pop-Tart, which is an atrocity, but something that we just grow up eating. This like it's barely food. I'm just gonna be totally honest. It's like probably plastic, but it reminded me so much of Pop-Tarts because they're these little rectangles that have this like caked on like dried frosting
and sprinkles and
Oh my gosh. And it's magical. It's terrible, but it's magical. And I just loved like instant nostalgia almost
Mm.
with, the visual design of the buildings and things. So I thought you had handcrafted those. So that's rad to know.
Yeah, yeah. I wanted to add like even more cookies and donuts and candy and all of this stuff, but that was one of those things where it's like that. Yeah, I never got to it. Like it's one of those things that I really wanted to, but then it's like, okay, if I add that, then I'm probably gonna add something else, and then I end up just doing art for half a year. And that's, I mean, it would make the game, I think, like just visually more appealing. But it's a decision I took just so to save my own time, I guess.
Yeah,
I felt I
Maybe that's
reached the
part
point.
two.
Yeah. I felt I reached the point of like, oh, it looks cookie enough, whatever that means.
Cookie enough. It's that subreddit of a sentence that's never been spoken or a brand new sentence or something like that. I think, yeah, that makes total sense. Like maybe it's almost like visual scope creep. We talk a lot, I'm sure, in your day job too, about like something that in theory could take 35 minutes actually takes 16 weeks. You know what I mean? So I can, totally empathize with needing to sort of parse down like which choices have to happen because, oh man, it's crazy how like fast that can happen, how fast it can add too many things. For sure. We talked a lot about like some of the things that kept you motivated with like not necessarily focusing on commercial production, and also these sort of funny moments that you shared with friends or maybe other people that were playing the game. How did you stay focused and motivated to finish the project? Like it sounds like it took a couple of years to create it. So were there these windows that you didn't work on it for like a really long time, or was it something that you're kind of like slowly grinding on for that period?
Yeah, so it was quite interesting because it like the first project file created like was 2 years ago, but like back then it was a completely different game. And so I did some things and then I stopped working for it on maybe like 1 or 2 months, and then I did some things like I said, it would come in waves, sort of this motivation. And most of the time it was like either if I had a lot of things at work, or if a new game got released and that's like, oh, I really want to play this instead. Or in the summer when it's nice weather in Sweden, we want to be outside. So then there's like the game that goes down. So it was like all these different factors. And I think the thing that made me not abandon the project, because I never had any issues with like not working on it, because I always knew it's like I don't have a deadline, it's fine not working on it, so I never felt bad for not working on it. But what I sometimes wanted, like I wanted to abandon the project in times where it's like, oh, this is getting really, like I'm not sure what to do, maybe it's not fun. Like I gave it to a friend, they don't understand anything. It's like, oh, how can I salvage this? And in those moments, I feel like it just like I always try to set a rule to just work on one project at a time, and I felt like I just had to stick to that in ways. Like I would, when I really wanted to abandon the project, I would instead of making a new project, I would just stop working on it, try to do something else that's fun, play games, go out, whatever. But it was like I'm not sure either sort of where I get my motivation from. I think it's like, but that rule of just like one project at a time and being able to allow myself to just stop working on it when I don't feel like working on it, like that combination I think is what made me like actually do this and ship it. And then I mean the closer you get, then it's like just the want to get it out. Like I just wanted to like release and see, like get other people to play it and all of that sort of takes over. Like when I started to play test more and more towards the end, to just like find bugs and everything, and I asked more and more friends to play it, like their reactions and their enjoyment of the game just gave me more motivations to finish it. So that sort of like snowballed a bit and it kept rolling. And now, I mean, I released it, I'm not sure, like 2 months ago maybe, but I haven't worked on a game personal project since, pretty much because I feel like now I just want to relax, take the break, and then I'll hop onto a new project when I feel like it.
That's awesome. Yeah, and it's summertime, which where you're at is really nice.
Yeah,
it is not nice where I'm at. So we have like almost like inverted schedules, because for me, like fall, spring is when I want to go outside, and then summer it's like, hi, don't go anywhere. Like, don't leave your house. But yeah, it's I think having that balance between, even though it's not technically work, it sort of is in its own way, right? Like, I think having that balance is so critical. It's something I've been thinking about a lot with myself recently too. It's like, when is it okay to take a break? Oh, pretty much any time that you need one, I think, is like the good time.
And it's like, even though like you can handle, like, because I hear a lot of game devs give the advice of like, just start the project every day. It's like, as long as you do something every day, that's good. And I think like to some degree that's true, but that also, like, sometimes you can do more than your brain can handle. And it's not always that you're doing the right things when you're stressed or when you feel like you're not enjoying it. So that hasn't worked for me. For me, it's way better to just, like, I work when I feel like working and when I have the motivation to work. And if I don't have that, then I just don't work. But then again, I'm in the privileged position of being able to do this as just a hobby on my free time, right? So I don't need, if you have a publisher and there's deadline, then obviously there's different circumstances and you're just gonna have to pull through, I guess. That's
true. Yeah, lots of coffee in that circumstance, I think might be the answer. Yeah, it's just try to get through. And it kind of, like you said, I think you get to a certain point where it's almost like the momentum has picked up and it's harder to stop in a way where, like, it's easier to start and stop if there's sort of a chapter or a bookend or something like this to put in its place. But once the ball gets rolling, it's almost even harder to prevent it from continuing to go where it needs to go, because there's all these things going on. And so that's a nice place to get into. And so if you can, like, be Sisyphus and just keep pushing the boulder up the hill a little bit at a time, someday it'll snowball to stack 5 analogies into a sentence. But it's I'm curious too, because you mentioned that people very often give this advice, like, work a little bit every day. And I think for some people that works. I think you and I are very similar. That doesn't work for me. I have to, like, stack work into a certain spot and then not think about it for a while, and then stack work into a spot and then not think about it for a while. That works a lot better for me. But yeah, if there are solo developers that are out there that are working on maybe their first title, or maybe they have even 3 or 4 projects, right, that they're trying to figure out what it is that they're doing, what advice might you offer to somebody who's trying to get to the point that they can actually release their game into the world for people to do silly things with?
Yeah, I think, I mean, for me, the number one thing is just, like, personal enjoyment. If you're doing what you actually find fun, then the probability of what you're doing becoming successful and reaching, like, just being completed, like, skyrockets. Because I've worked on projects where I am not, like, I don't have passion for the project, and it's like, then you're going uphill every day, and it's just going to be more pain. But when you're working on something that you're like actually enjoying working on, then it's like, it becomes just like walking your dog. It's just a thing you do, and progress happens, like, magically over time. And it's just like, you don't really have to think about it as a second job or whatever. It happens because it's fun. Just like playing games. Like, sometimes I feel like playing games, sometimes I feel like working on my game. To me, that almost taps the same part of my brain that, like, relaxes and enjoys, like, alone time in a way.
That's great advice. Yeah, absolutely. I think it sounds really similar to a dev that I was talking to that said, find the fun first. And I like this phrasing that both of you have used of, like, find that thing that brings you joy. I think that's such a key thing. And in my day-to-day life, and also in the games industry, it can be really easy for a thing that's supposed to be fun to really not become fun. And that's for AAA studios. That's not for, in the indie world. I would like to think that, every single person working in AAA is having a good time, but unfortunately it's probably not the reality at all the moments, especially right now. Yikes. But, people can have fun and feel good about it, I think it'll make the game better. My experience also as just a person who plays a ton of games is that when the dev has a good time making the game, the player can feel that. The player knows when the dev had a good time making that game. It makes a difference. And I think finding a way for it to feel good in your life, like, yeah, I like that a lot. I think that fits really well. And I don't know, I think we live in a time, to get, a little esoteric here at the end of our chat, is that I think we live in a time that we try to denigrate ourselves for lack of perfection. But I think games are a place that is somewhere between fun and an art form. And for that to be something that is very entertaining, I think, is really cool. And we're in an era where now pretty much anybody with a passion enough can make a game, which is super cool. So yeah, thank you. I'm super grateful for, the chance to play your game. It's super fun. And for anybody watching this, make sure you go snag it on Steam. It is a really good time. And then I'm going to kind of like break the fourth wall for a second. The best thing you can do for a dev is leave a review on the game. So if you're watching this, make sure to not just snag it, leave a review. That helps a ton, both for Steam and for the dev as well. And Jesper, thank you so much. This has been such a fun chat, and I really look forward to, playing more of this game. And for any goofy, happy, fun, silly stuff you make in the future, I will definitely be keeping an eye out.
Yep, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, anytime. I'll chat with you soon.
Yep. Thanks.
Thank you.